We are ready.
Oh yeah, I'm pumped. Is that what
Bring
you
us
want?
on.
Yeah.
Clap it on. Clap it on.
Wait, what's that mean?
Okay.
Slow clap.
Okay. Okay.
That was slow clap.
Yeah.
I thought it was a dancer clap.
No, it was like slow,
It just
faster,
happened.
but it
just
happened.
That's what's great about the live.
great.
It's so spontaneous.
Are we here?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Let's Make Art. Today we are painting this beautiful flowering cactus. Look at it. Love it.
Oh, that is
Love
nice.
it. Ooh, ah. Ooh,
I've seen
ah.
it before somewhere.
Yeah.
Looks
Maybe on our
familiar.
Instagram posts. Okay. We have with us Jake doing camera work.
Yeah.
Woo, 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 woo. We have, and he's out. We have Suzanne painting with us. Hello, Suzanne. I'm Sarah Cray. Al is doing camera work. Yeah. And Drea is painting with us too. So welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited to paint with you. Hopefully you guys have your outlines ready to go and trace. Suzanne is going to start tracing hers. Now, if you don't like dark lines when you do your tracing, you can either take the rubber eraser and get that off, or you can just draw really lightly. So I did it really soft today, so I would have really soft lines, and I think it came out pretty good.
If you don't like dark lines,
If you don't like the dark, don't press as hard, because this is actually really strong graphite paper. And
Is it different? Remember the other one was folded. That's all I remember.
no, well, they just came packaged differently. But I don't know if you guys know this, but graphite paper you can reuse over and over and over and over again. I've probably been using the same sheet for like a year. So yeah, the bunny is from last week. You'll see your drawings in them as you add more projects. So yeah, okay. Couple announcements. Update on our store. We have dates going. We're working on it. We're actually looking at June for our store opening, so look out for that. We're super excited, and I'll post things as we go and as we renovate it. And then also for our kits, they've actually been doing really well. It seems like we're getting a lot of great feedback on the kits, and people are loving them, which is super exciting because that's what we want. So just to make it easier for you and to make sure that you know they get to you in time, because sometimes we worry about making sure getting them to you by Tuesday. We are launching tomorrow. We'll have it launched on our website. We're starting a subscription for all the kits. So, yay! So you sign up for that. We'll send it out to you. We'll make sure it's there by the very first of the month. And it's going to have all 4 projects in there. And it's everything you need is right in that box. So we're going to have all of that info up on our website tomorrow. We're really excited to start it because we think the kits are awesome, and that's basically what it is. It's 4 kits in there, so yay, woohoo, woohoo for that. Do we have any other announcements? Nothing at this time. Okay. No further information at this moment. Okay. Okay, let's do our oath before we paint. So what's the best part? Everybody raise your hand and repeat after me. I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to be a perfectionist.
I promise not to be a perfectionist.
And I promise to have fun.
And I promise to have fun.
Woohoo! Yay! Okay, we're going to start with our warm-ups here. And so hopefully you have your scratch paper in front of you. We can do a couple warm-ups here. Now, we start with our first warm-up every week, which is our value change. And you might be like, Sarah, we do this every week. Well, we do it every week because it's like super important. It's the technique I use like the most. If there's a painting that we do not use this technique, I will not make you do this. But so far, we do it in every single painting. So we're going to start getting a lot of paint on your brush. You get your brush wet, a little bit of wet. I kind of dab it on the edge of my cup after I dump it in so it's not soaking, and then I put a bunch of paint on that. And then I do my dark marks here, some dashes. Yeah, you can do whatever color you want. And then you just take clean water where you left off and you just smear it out till it's a very light wash. Now this watercolor is super easy to work with because it's liquid. It moves really easy. So usually that's all you need to do to get a dark, medium, and a light. Sometimes I'll even go back and do even darker at the very end to make sure it's like super dark. And this is a great way to test out the colors that you have on your palette. Because you're like, what's this color?
I think I should have done green first, because look at my water.
That's okay.
Mine's the same one. The pink.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And we have extra water cups here.
Perfect.
But we're actually going to mix the greens and the blues together in this cactus, so don't stress about it.
Now, can you go backwards? Like if I started... I guess
Like
you
start
couldn't,
from
right?
light to dark.
Yeah.
You can try that. For me doing a value change from just having a range from dark to light, it's easier for me personally to go from dark to light than to go from light to dark. I don't know why that is. That's just how it is for me. So I always go dark to light first.
I don't even know how you would...
If you want to go from light to dark, you would start with just water and then you would spread it, and then you would probably like introduce color and then kind of like go back a little bit so it's a little wash. I feel like you do a lot of backtracking when you're doing the dark to light. So that's why I choose not to do that one, because it's harder for me, but it really just depends. I know some artists who like to go light to dark. That just works for them. So whatever works for you.
We've got some hellos from Canada.
Oh, hello, Canada. Indianapolis, hello. Welcome.
Sue is on. Karen's on.
Sue, good to have you, as always. Karen, I think that's my mom. Hello.
Karen Gray.
Yeah,
She's a super fan.
she is. And then
I think that's my mom.
I think that's my mom. Wrong Karen. I'm sorry. Okay. And then the next thing I want you to do the same thing, but I want you to mix a couple of the colors. So I'm going to mix some of the green, a little bit of the blue, and a little golden yellow, I just want you to see what colors look like when you kind of mix them. So this kind of turned into like a really cool, not quite turquoise, but you just get some pretty colors in there. And then after you do that, I just want you to drop in some water droplets just to see how the water moves the pigment out. Just like that. We're really just playing here. We're really just having fun.
You know when you use like a chalk palette kind of the watercolors?
Mm-hmm.
Does it
Like the hardened ones?
Yeah, does it do all the same texture-y stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's different forms of watercolor. I use liquid, but there's also some that are kind of like a paste, and then there are some that come hardened, kind of like clay. You can all do the same textures with them, but you'll notice that the ones that are not liquid don't move as quickly. So the liquid ones, I've noticed, move really fast and really smooth. And the other ones, you can still do these same things, but they don't just move as much. So. Oh, and when you're painting on paper, there's two sides to it. You want the rough texture when you're painting. Warm-up sheet doesn't matter as much, but there is a rough and smooth side, so you want the one that's rough. And then we're playing with liners today, so we're just going to practice our little liner work.
Was I supposed to bring the bulletproof liner?
I have it.
Okay.
Don't you worry, I got it. So, because we're going to be doing this for our little cactus spikes, so we're just going to practice that a little bit. Now, when you do your spikes, you don't want to do them like totally straight out. You kind of want them to be curved a little. So just kind of practice curving your spikes here. Pretend that this is your spike center that they're coming off of. Yeah. So curve it a little. You still want them nice and thin, but we don't want it to look like a sun, you know, like a little kid's sun.
Kind of like a weird looking starfish.
Yeah. Does that look like a starfish?
Or seagulls in the sky.
Seagulls. A turtle. I see a turtle. So yeah, try and curve your lines a little bit. And then on each spikes, we probably do like maybe like 3 to 5 on each little like circle round. So don't do like a billion, because that's just too many spikes, too many.
Like that.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
We'll just pretend that those are 2 different ones.
Yeah. I'm a learner. I mean, I'm a beginner.
Okay, and then the next technique we're going to practice, because we're going to do this with our flowers, is we're just going to do like a light wash. And when I talk about washes, I mean like how much color is in them. If you want a lighter wash, you just add more water to it. So I'm doing a light pink wash. So this is mainly water here because you can tell that there's not a ton of color on my brush. And then I'm just going to grab a lot of color and just kind of drop it in and just let that kind of spread out. So you want to do light wash, and then you're just going to touch a lot of color to it and just let that kind of move and spread out on its own. And you can even like pick your paper up if you want to help it move across the paper.
That's cool.
Yeah, it'll just move right across that wet surface.
Magical.
It is magical.
I kind of want to do like an abstract painting of just doing that.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
We should do a project on it.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
deal.
Okay.
Okay.
Fight.
I'm gonna paint on this. Okay, I think we are ready now. Keep your scratch paper handy if you want to practice anything before we get going. Or while we're painting, it's always handy to have a paper nearby to paint. Let me make sure that's in the frame. Okay. Now, as I like to do with like just about every single painting, is I like to start off and put my dark areas, and then I just use water to blend it out, because I feel like that's a really easy way to get value change. So that's really what we're going to do here. So in our outline, we have these little sections at the bottom of our ribbed cactus, and those are shadows. That's what those are for. So that's when we're painting, it just helps me know. I'm like, okay, so the shadow goes from here to here, and then I can start blending it out, kind of thing. So I'm going to grab some green, and you can mix whatever color you want. If you like the more teal looking, then you're going to add more blue. If you like the more yellow green, you're going to just add more golden brown. I usually, honestly, like mix all 3 colors together, like all the time. And then I do a little bit of black since I'm doing my shadow here to make sure that it's really dark.
Is it weird if I switch this so I don't have a ton of paint?
It's not weird at all.
Okay.
And then I'm going to start down here on my left side, and I'm going to just fill in that shadow. And after I filled it in, I rinse my brush, and then I just spread it out. Now I also have little sections at the top. Some of them are flower petals, so these right here are petals, but these sections are also shadows that we're going to go in and put in a little bit. So that's what those are, if you're wondering. And even after I spread it out, I like to go back in and drop in color right at that bottom. And I'm going to do a little bit at the top too. If it's too dark, like she has a, I'm just going to bring it over here if that's okay. So she has just a lot of paint going on hers. All you have to do is wet your brush and just lift up that color. And then wipe off your brush, lift it up. And then that you can start spreading.
Perfect. Thank you.
So just use your brush as a tool, just get it clean, lift up color, then like dry it off on your paper towel and just do that again until you feel good about what's there. Now, as we go on and we do each, because cactuses are ribbed, right? Which is essentially what we're trying to come across here is this cactus is not a completely smooth surface. It goes in and out, in and out, in and out. That's what these shadows are for. So we're going to do our next section of the rib, but I'm going to leave a tiny bit of a white space in between so then this doesn't bleed into it. Because if we start bleeding, it kind of gets messy. So that's why I'm going to leave a little bit of a space in mine when I go to do it. So I'm doing my shadow. here. Then I get my brush wet, and as I go up, I'm just going to leave a little bit of a white space. And then when it's dry, we'll go back and we'll blend that all out. But for now, that way it doesn't get too messy. And you can, so I just laid down this section. Now this section is this one is like an almost different green than what I put down here. That's not a big deal, but for me, I want to add a little bit more yellow to it. So you can always go back in and drop in more color if you're like, you know what, that one was looking a little too blue for me. So I went back and I just added a little yellow. Sorry, you have to share with me and I mix like crazy.
I'm trying to like figure out if I need to make that darker.
I think that's looking good.
Okay.
I'm going to go back in and darken mine a little bit, but.
Oh, I love the way that your colors are mixing in there.
So yeah, and the really fun thing too is even after you lay down color, if you go back in and just do a drop and introduce a different color, you just get some really cool variations. Now when you drop it, you don't want to just be like plop, because it's most likely going to just stay in a circle. You're going to add it. So I'm going to add some blue back into it. You're going to put down the blue, and then I'm just going to spread it around just a little so it's not just like a round blob in the middle of my thing, if that makes sense. So we're just going to repeat that for this next section too. You're going to get your dark. Stomach growl.
And mine did too, but thankfully.
We're just going to do our dark section here. Now, if you have a watercolor pad at home, I always like to paint on my watercolor pad because the top part is kind of glued down, so the paper actually doesn't curve as easy. If your paper is doing that and it's irritating you, you can paint on the pad or you can tape it down.
Okay, so so I really like the way this looks.
Yeah.
But this doesn't look like that so much, even though I'm using the same color. Am I not having enough water on my brush when I dip it in the dark paint? Or just not enough paint on my brush? Does that make sense?
Yeah, because you like how dark this is. Is that what you're saying? What I would do is you could just go back and do another layer of dark.
Okay.
Yeah, because sometimes just different things make it, like maybe there's a little bit too much water that bled into that area. You see how it kind of moved down?
Yeah.
So it's dry now, so you can go back in and just do another layer.
Okay.
Which is the kind of wonderful thing with watercolor, and which is it's always a good idea to go lighter first if you're not sure, because it's really easy to do layers. It's really hard to kind of take away. There's little tricks that we can do to kind of lighten things up, but like I said, it's kind of just easier to layer it if you can. So, which is also kind of why I like my dark to light, like just putting dark down and then spreading it out technique, because then I know that my dark is there, so I know where my lights and darks are, but then if it loses it, I can just go back and do another layer. So I'm just kind of going back, darkening up a little bit my shadows, spreading them out. We do this a couple of times. Even when it dries too, we'll go back to it. And then I want to create a stronger highlight on the curve of this third rib here. So to do that, I'm just going to lift some color out and expose more of that white paper. So I just took a wet brush and lifted color out. And then I'm going to lift it out again so it's a nice highlight on there. When it works best to do that if your kind of wash is already wet. If it's dry, it takes a little bit more work to bring that color up, but this was still pretty wet, so I was able to just lift up some color. That's okay. We get it. It is exciting. I understand.
You understand.
I totally understand. Okay, now you might be wondering, you're like, what is this section right here? Like, what's going on here? So because this thing is rounded, it kind of has to have a middle point, and then the shadows go the opposite way. So this is kind of like our middle point. So this is the point that's kind of staring at us. So the center of this is going to be dark, and then from that moment on, it's going to be shadowed.
Are you showing the reference photo?
Yes, I will. Like here on the reference photo, this is our dark center. That's what this is. Here's our shadows on this side, and then after this point, the shadows go on this side.
So paint that part dark and then go out.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're going to start, that's going to be our dark section for that part. So I'm going to do a little bit like of a line here, and then do a thicker. Now this is why round brushes are really great, is I was able to do that in one stroke, go from thin to thick, just on my pressure. If you can't do that, that's fine, just fill in the lines. And then we just blend out from there. It's the same thing. Just use that color that we laid down and blend it out and leave a little bit of a white space so it doesn't bleed. Now, we'll probably have to go back and darken this a couple of times, so don't worry if you lose some of that darkness as you're spreading it out. I think I went back probably 2 or 3 times to darken this area, because you lose it a lot as you use that color to spread it out.
I like this color that I somehow made.
Ah, that is a great
I
color.
don't know how it happened, but I made it.
It's like a really desaturated green almost.
Yeah.
I don't feel like you got black in there, but that's what I feel like it is
Yeah, there's
almost.
black though.
Is there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, look at that color. That is so nice.
Pretty.
So you probably just did some green, maybe a tiny, tiny bit of blue and black.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And then
You know.
you were going out this side too.
Uh-huh, yeah.
You slide
my
your tray
side,
down a
yeah.
little bit.
I will slide my tray down. There we go. So, and the other thing that you have to remember with this side is we don't want it to be dark and then like a strong line and then a light wash. We want it to blend a little bit better. So I'm adding more color on this side to help the value change blend. So it's not just a strong dark and then all of a sudden light, because that almost looks like an outline. Do you guys see what I'm talking about? See how there's a strong line right here? And then this, all of this is almost the same. We don't want that. We want it more like this. See how it's like dark and then kind of a
Yeah.
medium and then a light? That's going to communicate space better to us, to our eyeball. It's okay.
I got pink eyeliner.
Look at that. It's almost gone.
Ta-da.
If you had a Mr. Clean Magic Eraser, you can clean that up like that. Let me tell
Really?
you.
Mr. Clean Magic Erasers.
I'm just saying they're the best.
Maybe you should sell them.
We could sell them. We should sell them.
Maybe I'm going to start selling them.
Maybe Dre is going to start selling them on the side.
Side business. We should make art.
We should make art.
Don't tell me shit.
You also want to just look at what your paper is doing. So this is still really wet, and did you get droplets on yours? Just take your paper towel, lift them up.
We need a magic eraser. for
That
this one.
noise.
So you just kind of we're gonna lift. If you do it quick, it's not too bad. Just kind of lift.
This is why you need a magic eraser.
Where do
for
they
it.
come from?
I flick down there when I
And then
pull it
you can
out.
take clean water and kind of scrub it out. Oh. Nothing came off. It's fine. So, yay, it's gone.
Yeah.
You could do the same thing with the paper towel. Okay? We don't sell paper towels either.
Side business.
Side business. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next section because this is just getting a little bit too wet and my paper is starting to warp a little bit. So I'm going to wait for that to dry before I mess with that more. So I'm just going to move on and do my shadow on the next part of my cactus. Now this shadow is a little bit bigger than what I've done so far. And if you see here, I literally just mix all of my colors together.
And then I just wait for you to use it, and then I steal.
I just did that on accident.
Mix them all together.
Yeah, all my colors are together.
That's what I do. I like it.
I steal the spot where you mixed, but my color is never the same.
That's the magic of watercolor.
Thought I had like a hack. No.
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 Is that a good O?
Yeah.
You like the colors?
Yeah.
Good.
Somehow the brown leaned into all the colors.
Now, as you're painting and you're filling in space, it's so much easier to use the side of your round brush when you're filling in space than the point. Because if you use the point, then it's like just little strokes. But if you use the side, you can cover a huge area. See what I'm doing? You use the belly of the brush. Now, I just dragged a little bit too much color up on the top here. I was going like this, and I don't want that to be outlined. So all you got to do is just take your clean brush and just move it back down. Move that back down to that area, and then it's gone.
I like this cactus already.
I'm so glad.
Yeah.
That is a good thing when you're just a few minutes into it and you're like, yes, I like this.
That did not happen with the rabbit.
Yeah, people were not feeling the rabbit, but it came together at the end. That's how all animals are, though. It's,
Okay.
no, go ahead.
I was saying I was kind of grateful you didn't like ask me to paint it, because I was like,
You could have done it, Suzanne. I bet you money.
it scared me.
It-
You bet me money.
Yeah,
Okay. That makes me feel good.
$20.
$20.
Betting on me. You're betting on me.
I am.
So sweet.
I am betting on you. Well, the reason why animals look so scary till the end is because I always do the eyeballs last. And so the whole time they look like this like creepy eyeless thing. But that's because you just want to make sure everything is dry. Because I like my eyeballs to be sharp.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
You know what I mean. Sharp eyeballs.
Remember when Drea was going to start a company called You Should Make?
You should make art. All she sells magic erasers, not art supplies.
Hey, if there's true bars in her future, she might
Yeah.
have an idea.
It's true. Yeah, I like that.
She's easily bred with fruit bars.
So I'm going back in, I'm doing another layer of dark and blending that out.
That's so choppy.
It's not, it seems choppy right now because we are literally doing sections with white lines between them. It's gonna look choppy right now, but then as we go on, we'll go back and we'll start blending things together.
Okay. That makes me feel better.
Are Casey and Rachel watching?
Casey, Rachel, are you out there?
They're in New Mexico already.
Wow.
Yeah.
I miss them, especially when I was packaging orders today. And then I'm going to go in and do a little shadow on this top part right underneath this petal. Just going to do some shadow here. And the reason why there's shadow at the top is, one, it's coming away from us, right? So the middle part of our cactus here is highlighted because that's what's coming out at us. If the light is facing us, that's what's being highlighted. The top is shadowed because it's going away from us and because there's a flower on top of it. So the flower itself is casting a shadow on the cactus. And then the underneath is shadowed because it's going away from us. So I did my shadow, but there's a strong line right there. I don't like how strong that line is. So you just take your brush with really no paint on it and not a ton of water to dry your brush. And then you just kind of blend. And I'm going to keep on blending till there's not such a strong line.
So go darker there at the top. Is that what you did?
Yeah, I went dark here. And remember, remember, you can always go back in and introduce some color after you lay down. I'm going to go back in and put some yellow here, kind of in my highlighted areas, and blend that out. And then my middle part's pretty dry now, so I'm going to work on that a little bit more too. Just do another layer of dark. And then just kind of blend that out. Can they hear that pan?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. No, we got to fix.
Like, thank you for that.
We got to fix. We can. There, that should be hopefully better.
Oh no.
Oh, what?
I got distracted and let my paint dry.
Oh, that's okay. Just bring it back to life with some water.
Okay.
But I think we have to find how to sell magic erasers now. Everybody loves them.
Really?
We can find a way to sell them.
We can.
Can we? Sure. We'll figure it out. We will do this for you. We'll figure this out.
Wait, are they saying they buy them from me?
Wait, are you saying that they would support
Wait,
a company called Shouldmaker?
comment if you'd buy those from me.
Would you buy them from a pregnant woman? From a pregnant
I
woman?
wouldn't say no to a pregnant.
Going to a good company.
Yeah.
Going to a good, feeding my children.
What's it gonna take to put this eraser?
What lines?
How it's choppy.
Okay, let me show you what to do.
Okay.
Okay. Suzanne's painting her
Let's just trade
cactus. Suzanne is painting her cactus, and she doesn't like this part, right? How there's like strong lines.
Wasn't me.
We're good, we're good. All you gotta do is you take your brush, you get it wet, so you wanna kinda clean off any paint that's already on there, and then I kinda like dab it to dry it,
Okay.
and then you just blend it out. And you go all the way up if you don't want a line in the middle.
Okay.
And then now that line is gone.
Okay.
That's all you gotta do.
Okay.
Okay?
Do I need to make the tops darker here, or is it okay? And I just flicked paint on it.
I would go a little bit darker here too. Yeah, go darker. And then I would blend this part up too.
Okay.
Now, doing this, you can get rid of most of the lines, but not all of the lines. So, just so you know, but you can do it enough to where it's not.
I'm a little heavy-handed on my tracing, so.
That's okay. Oh, that one's mine. I'm like, where did mine go? Okay.
You gave yours away.
I gave it. I just
traded.
like, here.
She
Yours
took
looks
pity.
like a very vibrant, alive cactus. Mine looks dead.
Yours is just a little bit desaturated because you.
Mine
That's
looks
okay
like
though.
half dead, half alive.
I like that though. I
Yeah.
like that there's different.
There's an accent.
Here, let's put both of them up. Should we do a check-in? Let's
Yeah.
do that. Okay. This is Drea's. This is looking real. I actually really like the colors that you have going on here.
Oh.
So if you don't like them,
No, I do like them,
then
but
yeah.
I like how vibrant yours is too.
Yeah, I like how non-vibrant yours is.
Oh.
So it's good.
Yeah, that's good.
I think this is looking nice. I would go back in here and really accentuate the shadow because we really lost it on this one here.
Okay.
So go back in, do some shadow on that one. And
And
then, yes.
Right there too.
Yeah, you're just going to want to blend this out a little bit more.
Okay.
And then put a little shadow here.
Okay.
Okay, but it's looking good. And I think your colors are great. For Suzanne, oh yes.
Like it?
Yes, so she has a really nice shadow going on here. It's blended really nice out, so there's not a strong line, which is exactly what we want. I would go back in and work on this piece more because this is kind of the same value actually across almost. So really go back in, do another layer of dark here.
Okay.
And I would go back, do another shadow here because this value is the same as this value.
Okay.
So darken this area up.
Perfect.
But it's looking good. And don't stress if some of your ridges are a different color than the rest because I do that too.
Okay.
So I think it is just kind of fun.
I think I like those colors.
Yeah.
I wish I could get.
You can do it again. That just has a little bit more of the blue in it. That's why it's like that. So, and actually I only put a tiny bit of turquoise blue on our tray, so I'll put a little bit more here if you wanted to grab some. Also, can we take a minute and just look at this palette? Look how great these colors are. I love it. My favorite part after I paint something is when I take the picture of what the palette looks like after.
Do you do it every time?
I do it every time. Well, for this, yeah, when I post the supplies list, I'll post a picture of the palette because it's so fun. It's my husband's favorite part.
Rachel Tuller joined.
Hello, Rachel.
Yay!
We miss you. They're driving. Okay, so I'm doing my last ridge now. Here, this one is not as shadowed as the other one, but there's still a little bit at the top and at the bottom.
Doesn't seem quiet.
What's up?
I'm just trying to blend this without making it look like too rigid.
I'm going to let you work through this a little bit.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's good.
Rachel says she's sad she's in the car and can't paint.
Oh, Rachel.
Don't you have a story about painting in the car, Sarah?
Rachel, you can absolutely paint in the car. No, I don't. I don't know. I don't think I've ever done that. I think that would be really hard.
Is this a shadow up here?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Are any of these buildings haunted?
What?
Because I hear the toilet running and it sounds like water's running.
No, it's the hot water heater.
Oh.
Are,
No.
just
I was
let's
hoping for a good story.
let's take a break and talk about haunted buildings in Hamilton. Are any of these?
I haven't had any experiences with haunting.
Really?
Have you?
Old man Hamilton.
JC Penney.
J.C. Penney roams these.
Could add ghost tours to your
Ghost tours.
agriculture's
Oh, that's quite a good-
Yeah, if you're out here
Yeah.
for quilting and
Ghost
painting,
retreats.
let's stay the night at a ghost house.
Why don't you give us these ideas?
I do.
Drea, you are just full of great ideas tonight. Okay,
Ideas.
that's what I did call them.
You call them great ideas.
Oh, I see. I see. Whoa.
Wow. Yeah.
Titan word.
You're just mad they didn't think of them and I didn't tell you them first.
Yeah. Now I'm going to take them.
This is going to be a long night.
Okay, I'm
You know what would
starting
make it
to fruit bars. I'm starting to blend out my white a little bit because my painting is dry enough that if it touched between the sections, it wouldn't all go into that. So I'm just kind of just taking a clean brush and just blending that white out with the color that's already there. We want to leave it still pretty light because that is our ridge. So there's going to be a highlight on there anyway. But we're just going to kind of
Holly wants to know if there's going to be an event around the store opening.
there's going to be a what?
Grand opening event?
Yes.
Like a party.
We will absolutely have a grand opening event when the store opens.
It should be like a cocktail party.
Paint party, cocktail
Pizza.
party.
Casey's pizza.
Casey's Pizza.
You have to wear that turtleneck.
I will absolutely wear my
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs turtleneck for sure, because I'm very serious about my job. And yeah, for sure. There's going to be balloons. I would call that a party right there. Okay. So I blend it out, and then I'm going to go in and do this little section that's coming off out of my flower. I'm just doing a light wash here. Just laying some color. I'm just really just filling it out so it's not white. Now this one, there's not too much like detail on this guy. I'm just kind of connecting him to my cactus. And this is actually a shadow here that I'm gonna fill in. I'm going to do the farther side a little bit darker. And then just let that kind of bleed and do its own thing. Another trick with watercolor that you can do, which is a good idea, is you can have 2 paint cups. So one paint cup could be for rinsing and cleaning your brush, and then the other paint cup can be clean water that you need when you're picking up a new color or that kind of thing. So sometimes I do that when I'm feeling really like organized. That's why we have a couple different paint cups here too. So if you have issues with having residual color from your paint cup, then just have another cup with you of clean water, and you can just grab from there. So I'm going to move on to the flowers. Okay. We're going to start off by getting our paintbrush wet, and then I'm going to grab cherry red. We're pretty much just using cherry red in our flowers here. And then I'm going to start by doing the petals up here. I'm just following the shapes that I already have laid out. And the brush strokes that I'm making, you'll notice that I'm not doing lines like this. Like if this was my petals, I'm not outlining. I'm not following the outline. What I'm doing is I'm doing brush strokes down and following like shapes of petals, because that is a little bit more natural feeling than this.
Hold on.
Do it again. So we have this part right here that we're filling in. I don't want to just go in and draw a line on it. What I want to do is I have my outline, and I'm just going to do kind of dash marks around it. Just like that. And then we go in and we blend it out with water. But that's just going to, that's going to make it feel more like a petal, and petals that are coming out instead of an outline that we're following. So I start with my darker color first. I kind of blended it out, and then I'm just going to spread that color all around the petals that I've kind of already have outlined here. Now, if your, I was about to say pumpkin, if your cactus is really wet underneath, try and leave a little bit of white space between, or else it's going to bleed together. If it does, that's not a big deal. That's what happened here, and I'm not upset about it. I think it's kind of cool. But if something like that would bother you, then just leave a little bit of white space. So I'm just kind of going in. Blending out here. I'm just doing a light wash along the back part, and then I'm going to go in and add darkness to it. Now I'm leaving the center completely white because we're going to go in when this dries and add some yellow to it for the center of our flowers. I'm going to lift a little bit of color out in this back because this wash is looking a little too even for me. And then now I'm going to take a lot of color and just go along like the top here and kind of let that move. I'm going to help it a little. Now these flowers are really forgiving, so you can kind of just play. Is that a good O? Oh, that's okay. You can always pick that up with your paper towel too if it's blending too much. Hers caught and bled a little. It's okay. Here, and I'm kind of just going through, kind of touching. I don't want to fully outline things. I do want to make like a darker section here because I want it to be clear that this is a section of petals that are going up and this is a section of petals that are going out and down. So I just made a little bit of a space there.
Rachel wants to know if you're using a few different greens.
So the greens that I have, well, the reason why I'm using a few different greens is because I put one color on the paperwork and then I was mailing another. So olive green and moss green and moss green are really similar greens. And I think I put olive green in the kits, but then I put moss green on the supplies list on the website. But they're really similar, so I'm just using both today, so no matter what you have, it will look the same. But there are two greens, so there's the olive, there's the moss green, and then we also have the golden brown and the turquoise blue. And as you can see, I just mixed them all together to get some fun colors. Now when you do your flower too, I like really soft washes for the outside of my petals. So even though I don't have like an outline right here, I feel like there needs to be like a really soft petal coming out. So I'm just kind of taking from what's there and just doing some really soft pink, like barely there petals. Just like that. And then when this dries, I'm going to go back in and define this front a little bit more, but it's a little bit too wet for me to mess with it too much right now. So I'm just going to wait on that. I'm going to move on to my other flower. So I lay down my first, and then I'm just going to spread this color kind of out and around. Now this is where the round brush really comes in handy because it's thick to thin. So you can do thick lines and then like a thin top here. So really, like I've said, these outlines are more just ideas for you. You don't have to follow them exactly. You can kind of go off script, do your own kind of thing. They're just, we talked about that with the whiskers of the bunnies. You don't have to trace every single whisker and paint that exact whisker. It's just to give you a general idea of where these petals are going.
When you do the top part of the flower, did you just do lighter paint?
Yeah, I just did a really light wash, and then I went back and did the a hard, strong color on the edge.
You want to, you can check them.
Yeah, let's check in. Okay, this is looking really nice. I think this texture that you have going on here is super cool. I love that. When that dries, you can go back in and kind of bring that pink back into that. And I would just keep going with a light pink wash going all the way around. And then also when this dries, we'll go in and we'll define this space a little bit more. But I think that this is nice. I think you have great value change from here to there. And just this like natural bleeding that's happening is really beautiful.
Thanks.
But remember to color these petals in too, because this is the only section that we're leaving for the center of our flower. Okay, and this is her, Suzanne's. This is looking really nice. What I would say is I want even a softer pink. Okay. So you can just lift some color out by getting your brush wet and lift. And I'm lifting out towards the edge because I'm kind of like, because you just put this paint here, I don't want to lift from there. And I'm kind of like moving the paint towards the edge, right? Because it's okay if the edge is dark. So we're just going in and kind of lifting out a little bit, just because we want a little bit more value change. And then I would go in with the soft pink and just see how that pink is really nice and like barely there. We want a couple of those.
Okay.
Because that's like, oh, those petals are underneath, they're farther away. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and I didn't like how this was all like one color. I was trying to.
Yeah, so you can just like go in and just do barely there petals.
Okay.
But it's looking good.
Trying not to be too like about this because I feel like once you put the white on
Yeah.
it, it'll change.
Yeah, don't be too, because also I feel like there's like finishing touches on a few projects that's like, oh, okay, that's what it is. The spikes on this is going to add a lot to it too. So if you're like, this isn't totally looking like a cactus, it's like, well, because it doesn't have its spikes yet. That's why. That's like its defining feature. But we want to do that last because then everything's dry and we can do those detail lines. So I'm going to go back in. I'm going to do a couple petals back here that are darker. Kind of coming from the center here.
I think it's so cool that you can freehand draw these outlines.
It is cool, Treya.
I couldn't do it.
Draw
I couldn't do
anything.
it. It's cool.
It just takes, it's just practice, you know? Drawing is like this whole, and I know, and that's why a lot of people don't paint, right? Because like to draw something out is really hard.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm like, that's fine. I'll draw this for you. And then you can paint it.
I'm with you, Drea. My stick people look terrible. not a thing for me.
It's so funny. It really is just training your mind to draw what it sees and not what your brain think it sees, which I know sounds weird, but that's exactly what it is. Because like, you should make, we'll talk about that at You Should Make It.
Our branding.
Kind of confusing. They're like, wait, what is this? Which one do I follow? Let's Make Art is us. That's us. We are Let's Make Art. That's what we're doing. Okay. So I'm going to go back in and kind of define my petal space a little bit more here. I'm going to mix some of my cherry with just a tiny bit of the golden, just for color differentiation, so it's not all the same. And I'm just going to kind of make these petals come down here. Like they're kind of coming out of the middle. And then these ones, I'm going to like just kind of bleed so they're going out. So it's like, okay, now that that's clear that this section of the petals are coming up and this section of the petals are going down and away, just by adding this kind of shadow here. What's up?
I don't understand, or I guess I don't know by looking at it how to make the how to differentiate between the petals.
Okay. And this is where you kind of have to like see it in your mind before you can, right? We're going, it's like imaginary lines that we're following. So I want this space here to be kind of like a cup to show that these petals are going up. So I'm going to like put a line here. So these petals are going up and out. And then these ones, I'm going to just drag a little bit of color to like the center of these petals going out and down. And then I'm even going to darken just the tiniest bit right here. Does that make more sense? Mm-hmm. So that was basically like an imaginary line that we're following. It's kind of like halfway in between these spaces. We're just kind of making like a shadowed curved line to show that these are different. The petals are going in two different directions. Okay, so how do you feel about your flowers? Your flowers are looking good. You need to do a little bit of a barely there pink
Yes.
petals on the
I was
edges on
thinking
those. Yeah.
Can we do a water break?
Yes. Let's clean our water.
Water break.
Water break.
Water rack.
Get some water. Get some food. Can I have an almond actually?
Yeah.
Put the that painting in there.
The reference photo?
Reference.
Right
Over
there.
the side. Okay. No, not in the middle.
Well, I didn't want to put it directly on my painting.
Yeah, they don't want to see yours. They want to see the good one.
There we go. The good one, is that what you said?
Down the chat, Michael Craig.
What's Michael Cray saying?
Said you should make ours the new hot. Our competitor.
Our competitor. We started that?
Is your paper hot press?
No, the paper is cold press.
Did you already answer that?
I already answered it, but sorry.
So the difference between hot press and cold press that I found
It's the heat of the press.
is the temperature of the press. No, is hot press paper is usually smooth. It doesn't have a lot of texture. So when you're doing, like I use hot press paper when I'm doing watercolor washes that I will eventually scan and use for like wedding invitations or something. But the paper is not as strong, I have found. So I use the cold press, the textured paper for my regular work.
Let me have these, but it's the royal crown. I got it for strawberry fig. It was back in December. The guy,
Okay.
the company's called Squints Apparel, and so all the like logoing is like glasses and like Wendy peppercorn and stuff like that. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Seems like a real nice guy.
He's a cool dude. He had a beard. I mean, I don't really usually trust people with beards. So. I thought his
Crystal
branding was
drawing.
cool. Like, he's fun.
What's up, Crystal?
Hi, Crystal. Okay. I'm going to leave my flowers for a minute because maybe they're just a little bit too wet to do anything with right now. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to work a little bit more on the shadows underneath my flower here. They're not as dark as I want them to be. So I'm going to go back and define these a little bit more on this side and this side. And I'll probably just start kind of blending things. I really feel like a lot of watercolor is just kind of messing with stuff over and over. So I'm going to do another layer here and here. And then I'm just going to rinse my brush and blend that out.
What did you add to the pink again to do the little?
I did a little of the golden brown.
Okay.
And then Andrea's, so that's what I did on mine. Andrea's, because hers was just darker than mine, I did a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of black.
Okay.
Jar McGill says your washes look so smooth. It's interesting how you can so easily move your paint if you have it on paper for feet.
Yeah, and this is not true for all paints, but I think that's why I really like playing with these ones in liquid watercolors, is because they're really easy to move around even if they've been on my paper for a while. That's what I like about them. So not all paints are like that, I have found. So
Tell us that story.
I feel like there's not a story. Well, the story would be I painted with a different brand and it didn't move after a while. And that is the end of the story.
Where did you buy those paints? Was it an art company?
It was a different art company. Boo. No. It was before Let's Make Art was even a idea in anybody's head.
It was older than 4 months ago.
It was older than 4 months ago. I've probably been using these paints. I seriously got them around the time that Luna was born. So like almost 3 years is when I first started using these. And I've never went back. No. I just really like them. I like how they can move. And I'm gonna blend this out a little bit more. I know you're thinking that this area looks funky. It does. That's okay. Because when we add the spikes, it's gonna make sense.
I hate when I have a thought of something and then it doesn't look good.
A thought of something and it doesn't look good?
I randomly did this petal. I'm like, never mind.
Oh, that's okay. You can still play with that. So Suzanne was like, I'm going to do this petal right here, and bam, and then she's like, oh no. Just do like little, because like that was such a strong, thick line. So just play with it a little bit more. And then it's like, oh, okay.
Already.
Yeah. Still not.
No, I like it.
Okay.
No, that's why I'm like, okay, well, I can do that a couple other places. Too,
Yeah.
Where it's like all the same color.
Sometimes it's just like being a little bit messy with it is what helps it. And I'm going to add a little bit more shadow on this side, and then we're going to add some highlights to our ridges with our white. And I'm going to kind of go in and fill in the white spaces that are between my petals and my cactus. I keep on wanting to say pumpkin. It's not a pumpkin.
Pretty much the same project for Halloween.
It is. If you want to do a pumpkin, do the same exact thing, but with orange. And you're good to go. Yeah. And I'm gonna change the color of this because this green is too bright compared to what's going on here for me. So I'm just gonna introduce some blues and blacks. Okay. And then I'm gonna take my bleed proof white here because I really wanted to accentuate the highlight of that ridge. So I'll put some on here for us to do. So what I did is like right on these ridge lines, I just did like highlight marks here. Kind of going around. And I'm not doing them all the way. I'm kind of more doing them just like in the center of them. And then I rinse off my brush and I blend the white out. So it's going to make our painting a little bit more opaque because this bleed proof white is not transparent like the other watercolors, so it is going to feel a little bit thicker in these areas, but I kind of liked that it did that, but that's what's happening. It's because this bleed proof white is not transparent, which means it's not see-through, so when you blend it out, it's just going to create like a thicker feel. Did you just go, mm-hmm? Yes, I see exactly what you're saying, yes. So now we kind of have these like nice kind of white highlights on our cactus. Yep. And then you just kind of want to blend them so it's not like a white line. Not totally a white line. There's still going to be, obviously. And when you blend, you don't want to go back and forth across it. Because, sorry, I should have told you how to blend it. You don't want to go back and forth across it because then that's going to blend into this section right next to it, right? And we want to keep the highlight on this specific ridge. So when you blend, you're going to blend this way out. So I'll do another highlight here. So if this is my highlight, I don't want to blend like this because then I'm going to lose the shading that I have going on the ridge next to it. So I'm going to blend out this way.
Okay.
What's up?
Did you like my face there? Oh. So you were laughing at my face. I like went like that and I was like,
You're being a little too hard on yourself.
You took an oath.
No, I was just laughing at like.
Oh,
We
I was
promise to be
laughing
kind to
because-
ourselves.
No, dang it. Jake made a face at the same time, and I didn't know if he was like laughing at me making a face.
Oh, we don't laugh at our participants.
that Honda Civic out there. Too fast.
Oh, it was that car that was wrong right outside. And then I'm adding a little bit more shadow underneath here while you guys do your highlights. It is working. It is.
Just believe.
Yeah, there you go. You can even do more if you want.
I was about to say, I don't feel like I'm enough white.
Get some more white on there.
I'm doing it.
Okay.
I don't love the white.
Drea? No, I'm just kidding.
We come in.
Okay, what don't you...
I really loved the color that I had, and I feel like the white destroyed that color.
Okay, I don't think it destroyed it because here's what's going to happen with these white lines that we have going on here. Let me take my handy dandy reference. See these white lines? This is where we're going to put our white dots and do our spikes. So that's why we kind of have like a stronger highlight because it's like, it's almost a mark maker for us. So it's like, okay, that's where I'm going to put my dots and my lines. So a lot of this is going to have the white dots on it, and then we're going to do our spikes from it.
Okay.
So I used it as a highlighter, and then I also used it as like, okay, now I know where I'm doing my spikes from it.
So here where I went back and forth on the white, should I redo the white and blend it out, or is that?
I think it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's looking good. Okay, yeah, I think your white is looking nice, and I especially like that. That's pretty cool. I would just keep doing that and blending that out. And then also your shadow here, you need to go back in and make this a little bit darker here because it kind of looks like its own section.
Right.
It's not clear to me that this is underneath the petals and that it's fading to the highlight. Okay. So after you blend your white out, go back in and darken in these areas and then blend that out so it's not so disjointed.
Right.
But it's looking good. I think this is so cool. Yeah.
Purely by accident.
That's what a lot of this is.
I did that on purpose.
A lot of it is just happy accidents.
Aw.
Bob Ross. That's little Bob Ross for you right there.
I loved that sticker on my box when it was September.
Isn't that such a great sticker? Because I feel like he would be so happy if you ordered art supplies.
He would.
He'd be like, yes, paint.
I'm working on a cross stitch of Bob Ross.
Are you really a
Yeah.
cross stitch?
Is it just a black fro?
Well, when it's done, you have to bring that in.
I don't know if it's super appropriate.
How could it
It has
have?
a bad word on it.
Oh, okay. That's okay. We can put like blue tape over it.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you say I'm motherfucking Bob Ross?
Yeah, like what? I have to know.
I'll tell you later.
Okay.
My mom's probably watching this.
That was really funny. You're like, I don't know if it would be appropriate. What are you cross
Now I'm
stitching?
all red. It is Bob Ross, and then it's a picture. He's got he's all the
Oh,
trees on it, but then
okay.
it says something about the trees.
Okay.
I think it's in a meme of it.
What?
Is that a meme?
I don't know. It might be. I just saw it on Pinterest and was like, yeah, I need to make that.
Okay, so I'm going to add the yellow of my flowers. So I'm just taking my golden brown, just pure golden brown. I did a little another dip on my tray because all my golden brown got mixed in my green. So I have my own little golden brown. And just at the bottom near the petals, I'm going to put strong color and then rinse out my brush and let it get lighter at the top. Kind of just let that bleed out because we even want the center of our flowers to have some value change. I'm going to do the same thing over here. in clean water and kind of just blend it. I'm going to pick up a little bit of color too, so it's a lighter yellow.
I feel like I make too many faces when I'm trying to paint. I'm afraid
What I would go
blended
in to
too
help, no, you didn't. I would blend even more. I'm going to take yours over here if that's okay. Just because this section is feeling so different from the rest, we want to bring it back in. So to bring it back in, you just blend it more together. So we're going to blend almost all the way down.
Okay. That's why I was like trying to keep it up there.
I mean, we want to keep the dark up there for sure, but we don't want it to feel separate. So we're just going to keep blending down, and then you can go in even while it's still wet and just do, I'm going to fill in the white spaces here because we don't want white spaces between our petals. We want to be like, no, this is right underneath it. So you can do this even while it's wet, and then we're going to blend it out again. But even just getting rid of the white spaces underneath makes it more clear that
Makes it more cohesive.
it makes it more cohesive, more together. It's like, oh, that is part of the cactus. I'm going to do a little bit more on this side. Yeah, so if you're feeling one section is just so different from the others, like a clear section, all you got to do is just blend it out and down to connect it with everything else you have going.
Okay. And then should I do this one a little bit darker here too? Or?
I would just do a darker edge on the right side.
Okay.
I think this is really cool, but connect to those petals.
Okay.
You okay?
Yeah.
So I'm going to connect to my petals here too. And I don't know why, but this like petal right here is bothering me. So I'm going to just take a darker pink. Oh. Here? Is that better? This petal was bothering me, so I'm just going to add like a point to it. Makes me feel better. Okay. Okay, now we can do our dots and our spikes. And that's going to be our last little hurrah on our cactus. So if you have a cleaner water, try and use that. I'm going to put a little bit more white on our tray. Do you need more white?
A little bit.
Okay, we're going to go through, so I like to do like circles, and then that's the color I'm actually going to pull from to do my spikes. So I'm going to do like here, 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 and then a little one at the top. And then you take your liner, and then we're just going to spike it out. And remember to try and keep your lines kind of curved.
So are you pulling the paint from the dot?
I'm pulling the paint from the dot. I did put a little bit of water and a tiny bit of white paint, so it's kind of a smooth pull. But yeah, you can just pull from that white paint that you just lay down. And it's easier for me to actually, if you want to like turn your thing around, if you're having a hard time getting a good direction on your spikes. Now, if your cactus is really wet, like see how yours is wet in the top? I wouldn't do that part where it's wet because that white will just bleed out. We want these spikes to be nice and sharp. So try and make sure that your cactus is dry. If it bleeds a little bit, it's okay. Don't stress about it, but try and have it dry if you can to do these spikes. And then we're just going to repeat that on all of them. Now I don't want my spikes to be uniform, which means I'm not going to do a spike right next to this on here. I'm going to go in between on the next ridge. Does that make sense? So it's going to be like, here I'll do one, here I'll do one, here I'll do one, and here. And that way my spikes aren't on top of each other, and they wouldn't be in a straight line anyway, right? Because this cactus is curved. Just like that. Here. So we just go back and forth between the dots and the spikes. Now, if your brush is like not making nice, crisp, thin lines, and it's kind of like drying out, like it's just kind of like a rough texture over it, then you just need to add a little bit more water to your brush. You don't want too much that it makes it really thick. You kind of have to find like a balance between the two. So like that was a good...
Explain that again.
So if your brush gets too dry when you do the spikes, it's going to be kind of like a rough, short line. It's not going to be long and smooth. So if that's happening where you're doing your line and it's just kind of short and rough and really textural, then you're going to want to add a little bit of water to it. But you don't want to add so much water to it that it gets super thick. We still want to be able to make thin lines. So when that happens, if my brush gets too dry, is I'll dip it in water, and then I kind of like hit the side of my glass to dry it off a little bit. And then I go back in with a smooth line. So if you need to practice on a sheet next to you to figure out, you're like, okay, well, this is not as smooth, and you want to keep practicing until you get a smooth, you can do that.
These first few were rough. I think I got it now.
There you go. And when you do your spikes, you want them to go from like thick to thin. It's like that same thing if you did the whiskers with us. And I'm going to do it on a scratch paper here with the different colors so you can see. We don't want like even lines all the way through. We want it to thin out at the end. So you kind of like lift your hand up away. So you see that this part is thinner than this part right here. So we don't want our spike legs to be an even thickness. We want them to be thick and then thin, thick and then thin. And to do that, you're kind of like pulling away and up from your paper and having a little bit lighter pressure at the end. You can even make your spikes longer too. Like it's okay if they go to the next section. And all your dots don't have to be the same thickness either. Like some dots are thick, some are thin. I kind of just...
I like the longer spikes.
Yeah. The longer spikes, I think it just makes it seem a little bit more like active, like it's moving or something, you know? Now on the edges here, So because we have white paper, if I did white spikes along the edge, that's not going to show up very well. So what I like to do is I like to mix a tiny bit of the green with the white. So it's like a gray green, just so it's like a barely there green, and do a couple spikes off the side. So it's like, you know that there's spikes coming off there. But if I did that in white, you wouldn't be able to see that as well. I'm looking at it and I feel good. I feel good about it. I'm just going to play with my flower a little bit more while you guys are finishing your spikes, if that's okay. I'm just going to start blending some of this out a little bit.
The spikes seem so easy, but they take a lot of concentration.
It just takes like a finesse to it almost, where you have to be like, okay, I want these like smooth and long, so I got to just like do. It just take, yeah, a little bit of finesse, a little bit of soft. They just take some practice.
Yeah, the more I do them, for sure, the more I like it.
Yeah, you just kind of get used to the feel of it.
The first couple, I was like, these look terrible.
And that's how it is with, like, you know what I mean? Like, especially when you're switching brushes and you're switching strokes, you're just like, okay, what am I doing here?
Don't screw it up, Drea.
Too late.
She won't.
Yeah.
It looks great.
Never.
Man, my flower got so dark there. That's okay. Yeah.
Everybody be completely silent.
Nobody even
These
breathe.
remind me of something, and I can't figure out what it is.
Spiders.
Spiders, but they're like
See-through.
a specific creature in a movie. They remind me. Don't know. I'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out.
I'll
You got to
figure
do
it
the yellows to your centers.
I know, I haven't.
Stranger Things.
It's a
I
Stranger
missed
Things,
that part.
Stranger Things.
Oh, it's Stranger
I've never
Things?
seen Stranger Things. So
What?
I
It's a
don't know.
premonition.
Why?
It's a mind imprint.
I think it's something from like
Ilsa
Despicable
says
Me.
she's having trouble
There's,
lifting
like,
color from
something-
her flower. It's way too dark. Would you ever add a little white to lighten it?
You can try and add white to lighten your flower if it's getting too dark, but it's going to, I'll show you, I'll do it on mine so you can see what it's going to do. Because this is transparent, so it gives us a light feel even though it's dark. So even no matter where you add white to this, because it's opaque, it's going to make it feel almost a little bit muddy is what I'm trying to say. Muddy. But I'll do a little highlight on my like petals down here, so you can kind of see what that does. So it's lightening it, but it almost it creates a different texture to it almost, because it's more of an opaque color. And I'll do some up here so you can see. So that's why most of the time I use this as like a highlighter, because it's okay to have like a highlight color going on, because if you try and add like a light pink to it, it's just not going to look the same as the rest of the flower. But if you like that better than how dark your flower is, then you're totally free to do that. So this was me adding white to it. So it doesn't stay like a soft pink like this does, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? How it kind of like grays it just a little bit. Muddy. Kind of like that. You can also try and add just get your brush wet and try and lift up color if you can, or even get that area wet and take your paper towel and try and lift up color. See if that. So you're gonna go in.
I was hyper focused.
You're like, I am doing these. You're gonna start with like a dark down here,
Okay.
like at the petal edge, and then just take clean water and spread it up.
Okay.
And just kind of just fill in those centers, just like that. All right, let's let her fill in her center, and then we'll show it. We'll show everybody's. If you're painting right now, I absolutely love that lately people have just been commenting. They just, right after, they just take the picture and comment on this Facebook feed, which I think is awesome. So I love seeing them, and I love that because then everybody else can see it too. And I know it's scary to put your stuff out there, but let's be brave. And that's how we get better, and then that's how we give other people the courage to put themselves out more too. Oh, are we gonna have like a slow pan? You ready, Drea?
Yeah.
Okay.
So nervous.
Don't be nervous. They all look great. Here's our cactus. Yay, flowering cactus. That's the name of this project. We did it.
Hashtag flowering cactus?
Hashtag flowering cactus. I'll get closer. They look so good. So please put yours up. You can comment on here. If you put it on Instagram, you can tag us in it. You can hashtag it, Let's Make Art. I know that people have been hashtagging Let's Go Make Art. You can do that too. And the name of the project is Flowering Cactus. So hashtag Flowering Cactus. And next week, you ready to see it? Okay, next week, this is our project.
Wait, let me see it. Oh my gosh, I love it.
Monochrome mountains. This was, monochrome just means one color, so this was done with one color, just with different values. So it's so fun. I'm really excited to do this one. Teach y'all how to do it.
That's so cool.
It's so cool. It's so great. We're bringing back our happy little trees.
Yay.
So if you have a fan brush, have that ready. And don't forget that tomorrow we'll have the subscription box available. So
When
if,
is that? When does,
this is us being
when
vulnerable.
does that ship out?
We're shipping that out. So we're opening it up tomorrow. We're going to ship it out next week. So it's going to get to you by May 1st, which is actually the first Tuesday of that month. So don't delay, because it's like we have like a week period before we start shipping. So they'll be available tomorrow. I'm really excited for that. And I hope you guys love it. And that's it.
See you next week.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.